You might have seen the recent Andes Pacifico video and seen me fall off my bike and get injured. Ended up in hospital for the second time in as many years. I thought in this video I'll talk you through the crash a bit more, the injuries I got and how I've rehabbed for the second time in 2 years, and basically my tips for getting back on the bike after a big injury. Like any big crash I've ever had, I always try and think about how it happened, why I fell off. So that was actually day 3 of the Andes Pacifico. We'd had a really big hike in the morning, sort of 3 hours, and it was getting late in the day when I fell off a bike. I think I had a bit of heat stroke, it was super hot, I probably drunk about 2 litres of water. And basically I told myself to chill out, but I didn't do it enough. I had a pretty big crash. I know the video doesn't really quite do it justice, but I landed on my leg hard on the rocks. And I knew my race was probably done, my stem was all twisted, I was feeling pretty battered, I lost loads of time. But at that moment in time, I didn't really feel like I was injured. So I rolled down to the finish line of that stage and I knew my race was done by then. My elbow was pretty shredded, so I got some medical attention for that and got that scrubbed out, which was fun, as you'd expect. But my thigh was really starting to balloon really big. Had a little puncture wound in there, but it really wasn't bleeding very much. So they strapped it up, well, I cleaned it up and strapped it, and it was only about 2 hours later when we got back to camp, I took that puncture wound dressing off and it started really bleeding really badly. So luckily I got a bit of help from Loose Dog in his tent. He ran over, helped me out, and I just put a sock against that to stop it from really bleeding out of my leg and just tied a GmbN jersey around it and hobbled over to see the first aid. It looked to me just like a really big hematoma, so a big bruise that just, you know, really balloons up. So at the first aid tent, what they did was try to massage some of the blood out of that puncture wound just so it didn't bleed inside and get a massive hematoma. So really sort of massaging that out. They strapped me up, gave me a bit of pain medication, off I went for some dinner. After dinner, had a couple of glasses of wine. I tried to walk back to my tent to get a bit of sleep. Got halfway there, realised I was in a bit of trouble. I actually phoned Blake up so I could stick my arm around his shoulder. In the end, Blake actually picked me up, took me back to the tent like a baby, put me in the bed, and I thought I'd try and sleep this one off. About an hour later, I was in so much pain, I had to go back to the medical tent, so I hobbled my way back over there. This is when things became a bit more serious. Luckily at the Andes Pacifico, there are lots of great medical help. So Nick Otum, the doctor there, who's a bike rider and a doctor, took a look at it, and I was in some pretty serious pain by then, and he knew straight away that it was Compartment Syndrome. And when he said that, I knew what it was as well. I've got a friend who almost lost his leg to it. Basically, it's sort of internal bleeding and it was inside the muscle, and because muscles can't expand, it can lead to real problems. It's more complicated if you have it in your lower leg. Mine was up in my thigh. Basically, it means they've got to, you've got to get surgery on it to cut it open, because that blood isn't going to go anywhere and can cause some real problems with your leg. So, got in the back of an ambulance and I was taken as fast as possible down to Santiago, which took about an hour and a half. The ambulance driver was completely bombing. He actually hit a speed bump as we got to hospital, did a massive jump with 5 of us in this ambulance. Stuff went everywhere. My drip landed on the floor. It was carnage. I ended up getting emergency surgery at 5 AM that morning from a really good surgeon, Joaquim's actually a big GCN fan. So I had lots of help at the Clínica de Universidad de Los Andes. So really stoked on their help. Basically they cut me open from almost knee to my hip just so they could drain that blood. And then for the next 3 days, I had almost like cling film wrap around my leg with a vacuum on it to keep draining the blood. They got almost a litre of fluid out of that leg over those 3 days. And then it was a case of trying to sew it back up. So I was sat in bed for 7 days now without getting out at all. The second surgery basically just sewed it up a little bit. And then after 5 days, I got everything sewn back up and I had 54 staples in my leg, so I've got a pretty good scar from that. But that's the worst of it over. Really, as soon as they cut the muscle open, that's pretty much the problem dealt with. They can get rid of that pressure, and then it's all about recovering. It's now back in the sunny UK, sort of 7 weeks I think now since the accident. The Chile trip was amazing still. It was a 2.5 week trip that turned into almost a month with that time in hospital. And the advice I had from Joaquim, the surgeon, was basically take it super easy for 3 weeks, because that muscle's been really torn, sewn back together. If you push it too soon, you can actually get a hernia on that muscle. So this is definitely one of those times, listen to the experts, and I've taken it super easy for actually a month. First thing I did was get back on my e-bike actually, with my son on the front. Super leisurely ride. It was great to have that extra boost of the e-bike so I didn't stress that muscle too much. But now it's time to get back on a cross-country bike, build some of that fitness again. When it comes to rehabbing, getting back on a bike, of course I always say follow the advice of the medical experts. In the past when I was a pro, I did go and use some specialist sports physios actually, the people that help a lot of the pro downhillers and rebel athletes in the UK. Things like shoulder injuries in the past, I've dislocated my AC joint. And the great thing about going to see those specialists is they can tell you what you can and can't do. So there definitely are some exercises you can't do with shoulder injuries, but they can get you moving on things you can do, and that can make a big difference. In this case, I've just used the National Health Service in the UK. It's pretty good. I knew what the injury was. It's just a case of rehabbing that muscle and taking my time. So definitely try and get advice from the right people with different injuries and see how fast you can get moving. That's the slippiest thing I've ever tried to ride across. Oh, for f***'s sake. Yeah, that was the inside line, man, my stem's on the piss. The worst part about injuries is just all that time off the bike. It feels like I lose my fitness really quick as well. I've also got a torn ACL on that side, so torn ligament in that knee from racing downhill 15 years ago. I found in that crash that swelled up pretty bad as well. So now I'm back on the bike, just gently spinning. I find that actually really helps. It sort of gets the blood flow into there, and my knee's gone down loads. So still got to take it super gentle. I feel like this muscle aches pretty bad, you know, achy legs the morning after a big ride. It feels like that every day anyway. So I've got to go pretty gentle on that muscle, but it's nice to be back on the bike, back in the wet woods in the UK, but it's super fun to be back on a bike and riding again. I've definitely had a lot of injuries in the 20 years of racing downhill, riding enduro and just riding mountain bikes, and more than my fair share in the last couple of years. If you're a follower of GMBN, you probably saw, it was almost 2 years ago now, I had a big crash, broke my ankle, head injury, all sorts of things. So yeah, bit of experience coming back from those injuries recently. And one thing not to forget is that when you do get back on the bike, you're going to be a bit rusty, so take your time. Try not to lose your confidence. So, you know, big thing for me now is I don't want to fall off on that leg. Still pretty tender, even though it's getting fixed. I really wouldn't want to fall off on that leg. So I'm just going to take my time, realise I've not ridden a bike really in a month, so it's time to go super steady. And it'll come back. The big thing is, to begin with, you get on the bike and it feels like, oh, if I case that jump on, that's going to hurt or whatever. So take it gentle, and hopefully you'll build your way back into it and you'll case a jump and realise that actually probably isn't going to hurt it. So take your time, get back onto the bike, gentle as you can, and build up your confidence again. I've got to say a big thanks to everyone who helped me in Chile. Blake, of course, for being a good mate and carrying me to bed. The boys at GMBN behind the scenes as well. Nico, all the doctors, Andes Pacifico, Eduardo, Andes Pacifico, massive help, so cheers to those guys. And it's great to be back on a bike, even though it is raining. I'm going to do some miles. If you want to see that original video from the Andes Pacifico, click down there for that one and explain what happened if you've not seen that already. And if you want to see how to ride long miles, like I'm going to do now, up there for some tips on that one. Thumbs up if you like recovering from injuries. See you later.